Hello, everyone. Blue Star Saber once again to do another One Piece chapter review. Chapter 1188. Let's see, the Vahu. I might be mispronouncing the first translation. Quite it's likely, but it spells, I can tell it spells for who. But anyway, this chapter is basically following the events of the last chapter, in which let's see, you sort of had like let's see, Loki sent flying as a result of like from Emu's last attack. Let's see, crash landing into like, let's see, Gunko or Shuri's ice prison, if you will, and Ragnar hitting it, making the Straw Hats, let's see, free her much quicker than everyone probably expected. Zoro is fighting Summers as expected, though he ends up, let's see, blazing Sanji, saying that Sanji could easily take care of your, let's see, partner in crime, as we see Killingham's Rain Guard monster take on the Giants, and Sanji, of course, refuses to fight it because it's a woman, but is going for Killingham, and it's revealed that well, basically, let's see, Sanji does have the potential for Konkozaki, but but it's due to some sort of personal dirty thing with himself that he is sort of like that's holding him back from truly mastering it, if you will. And Luffy, who had hit Emu, ends up sort of like only doing so because Loki apparently claims that he damaged him first and is now prepared to fight him for real, declaring himself the man who'll be the Pirate King when, let's see, Emu compares him to Joy Boy, if you will. So yeah. So everyone expected this to be a bit, this next chapter to be a bit of a fight chapter, be it focusing on one of these fights, likely Luffy versus Emu, or even a mix of the fights, such as like see the monster trio against their respective opponents. How Oda's going to apply this? Is he going to make Emu? Is Luffy going to win? Is he going to do well against Emu, or is he going to do poorly? And this is going to be in like another moment where Luffy's defeated by the main villain, only to come back stronger down the line, or even next arc, given the fact that Emu could potentially be the final villain, if you will. So yeah. Let's see if those Emu stocks do well. But before we begin, we have this double page spread, if you will, in which we see the Straw Hats underwater riding either on a turtle with a bubble or a crab with a bubble when it comes to like Frankie and Robin, who I think for like Frankie ex Robin shippers, this will make them happy, especially since it feels like Jinbei is apparently taking Frankie's role as the dad of the Straw Hats, while Frankie's now the grandma, according to Oda. So yeah, you could have always made Jinbei fairly uncle, but it seems like they didn't. But you've got like Luffy, Chopper, and Brook with like Zoro having fun in one of the other bubbles, if you will, where Zoro's snapping, Luffy's just cheering, and Chopper's just amazement while Brook plays music. And we've got, let's see, Jinbei out in the water being saluted by a bunch of sharks, from what I can tell. Obviously, being a fisherman, he can survive, but Usopp is also out and he's being chased by one of the sharks, and he's like, ah, ah. And we've got Sanji, who is trying to grab the turtle's head, but forgetting that he's underwater, if you will, as he's jealous because Nami, in a sort of sexy bikini, if you will, is hugging the sea turtle that Luffy and Chopper are riding on, which has a crown on. So yeah, arguably it's one of those underwater adventure ones that you sometimes see with the Straw Hats. Arguably, I think what most people have probably paid more attention to is the fact that Noelle Nami is making Sanji jealous with how she's hugging the sea turtle, if you will. Also, the fact that Nami's wearing, let's see, another one of her sexy bikini outfits, which no surprise that Oda would do this, given how he does this often with Nami, despite the fact that some Robin fans would rather her get the spotlight with the, I guess you could say, color spread poses. But But it's no surprise since I think Oda did marry a Nami cosplayer, so or at least an actress who played Nami on a stage or something. I can't remember the exact details, but yeah. Either way, this is sort of like a nice little cover of the Straw Hats going on an underwater adventure, and they're as you expect. So yeah, before we get anyway, I've gone on long enough about this chapter. I think it's time I focus on the plot of the chapter. It begins in a sort of like seemingly a bit of a blank flashback thing where someone's trying to contact someone saying hello, and the other's going like, what, huh? Who are you? And the person says, Moo, going like, I am Moo. Who art thou? With the person replying saying, oh, me, I'm Joy Boy. Huff, huff. As we see Joy Boy's mouth, if you will, which many people have basically compared to like Luffy's, if you will, so implying that yeah, Joy Boy looks very much more like Luffy, and this more like confirms it. We're Emo here thinking that indeed Joy Boy is long dead, but as we end up seeing from seeing from here, if you will, Emu is declaring, so why do you remind Emu of that time? Preparing a bunch of flames around his his arms to an attack on Luffy, which he's going to fuse. Sort of making a sort of flame fist punch, if you will, but him going like, how should I know? Because he doesn't really know what Emu's talking about with these Joe Boy memories, if you will. Luffy ends up dodging the punch by ducking his head with the rubber body, if you will. Where Emu says, huh? Let's see, with the flames around Emu's arm saying, huh? He dodged as they start having a will of their own and moving their sort of arms themselves, it seems, from the looks of things. With Emu's flames, Ötzi hitting Luffy on the head as they sort of move in a sort of what many people have compared to as an Emu Gear 4 Snake Man sort of like punch, crashing it down. Luffy gets all black, Ötzi all covered in smoke from like the flaming punch, tries to attack Emu, but Emu attempts to stab, Luffy, and it seems Luffy is able to avoid it, if you will, and then goes into gear. Continues to go into gear 5, starts going into more of a gear 5, if you will. Also forgot to mention transformation. It seems like it's fully complete. With Luffy trying to attack Emu, but Emu is blocking him, cursing that he was able to hit Emu before, if you will. Emu summons his flames, flame things, and attacks Luffy. He's able to dodge with his Looney Tune-like running, if you will, or cartoon running, but he's still being chased by black flames, if you will. So hold on, let me just get the image. As we see Luffy is running away from Emu's black flames as he realizes they're chasing me and wondering, wait, aren't they supposed to be bombs? Instead, attempts to do a Jet Gatling attack to punch them and then cause them to explode without hitting him. And then in a sort of comedical way, Luffy does a new Gear 5 transformation, transforming into a genie, which, from my understanding, it's supposed to be a pun for the kanji for demon and genie having the same thing. So, in a sense, you could argue Luffy is mocking Emu with this sort of like transformation, saying, "Oh, look, you're the same as this," and all that stuff. So, yeah, we've got like his genie mode as he goes like. Talks about how he fought Loki and saying how he won't let his death be in vain. But as Luffy says this, Emu ends up shouting, "I'm still alive, you moron!" With Luffy going like, "Oh, hey, you're alive!" But Emu, now seeing this, attempts to attack Loki telling Retzi, and he's sort of panicking because he can't move. Ragnar ends up putting himself as a shield, but they are both saved by Jinbei using a Ara Berserk brick or Fisherman Karate Berserk Aberrat cube brick. Basically, Jinbei does an attack and seemingly block Imu's fire. Luffy ends up calling out Jinbei's name, with Jinbei saying, Luffy, do what you want, make sure he's protected. Let's see, with Luffy saying, yeah, thanks, Jinbei, he's my pal. With Loki going like, I ain't nobody's pal, if you will. And, oops, I just realized I need to just remove that. Move that and switch to this image where we see Ragnar being impressed, if you will. Let's see, with Jinbei, as Luffy is telling him... Oops, hold on, my phone's being a bit faulty. With like him saying that, Retzi saying that you can, Jinbei saying, alright, I can do that while you focus on the fight, as the squirrel's just being amazed by Jinbei's strength. With Nami saying, wait, that's Luffy, he's fighting that guy from before. With Usopp saying, is he gonna be alright? Who is that guy you wait as? The debate who on earth he is, with Brooks saying the only people higher than the King Knights of the Guard are supposed to be the Five Elders as far as he knows. With Usopp saying, so maybe this guy is the Knights Commander, thinking that must be it. With Brooks saying there is no more group more shrouded in mystery than the world government, and I think Brook is starting to perhaps maybe figure out that Imu might be the secret leader of the world government. Or at least just starting to suspect this. But after he Brooke reveals that, saying, hey Brooke, she's almost out, with Brooke calling out Princess Shuri's name. With Frankie going like, what's our next step? What does one with a frozen person? With, I think, Usopp recalling saying, well, let's see, when Robin and Luffy got frozen, with Brooke and I think Frankie being shocked that, well, they got frozen before. Let's see, Luffy did get frozen before, as well as Robin. Imu sorts of noticed that Gunko couldn't not break that ice. And Imu realizes that there's a man with an afro calling Gunko Princess Shuri, realizing that, oh, wait, could you be that guard? That palace guard that was like at the throne room at the time that when Princess Shuri became Gunko and killed, let's see, her own father. Let's see, so it seems like Imu does remember that, which shouldn't be a surprise given the fact that he seems to remember Joy Boy, despite the fact that it's been 800 years, if you will. But as this is going on, we see Luffy in his genie form. Let's see, using a slipping bullet attack, if you will, as he did call out Gum Gum a little bit while Imu was trying to realize who Brook was, but Imu, of course, blocks it. With Imu saying, without not watching earlier, as he does one of those black flames, putting on Luffy's genie beard, if you will, saying, watching what happened to Loki despite his size. And then Imu uses a move called Stigma, if you will, and Luffy is able to cartoonishly sort of stomp on the fires to take him out before he could be hit, but nevertheless he's being chased by like the new flames are attacking, and Imu ends up And Emu is drawn out. Let's see, circling with his weapon, and let's see his dark magic circle, if you will. Let's see, draws a sword saying "Blade of Nothingness, Valhalla." I think it's a void sword in like other translations, and we see that it sort of drains the life of trees. And Emu, we see that Emu has done an attack that, or just done as ash, destroys a lot of the trees in the surrounding area. Luffy is confused, realizing that the voice has dried out. Let's see, with Emu saying the view is clearer now, seeing Luffy and Luffy's Nika form. If Luffy says it's the same for up here. But Emu goes on, of course I know that thou art not Joy Boy. And as Luffy is confused by this, Emu in a more death glare, you see Luffy bleeding, you see the flame things going through Luffy as it's revealed that Emu has stabbed Luffy through the chest in a similar manner to Crocodile, with him saying Joy Boy was not that weak, if you will. So that sort of like ends the chapter on a cliffhanger and arguably one of the most major defeats that Luffy has ever endured. So yeah. Anyway, now that I've said my summary, I think it's time to like give my overall thoughts on this chapter. I do like how we are starting to get more and more pieces of Emu and Joy Boy's, let's see, relationship, if you will. Let's see, as how this is seemingly the first time they ever seem to have met, or at least contact each other. Now, granted, from my understanding, it seems to be like both Emu and Joy Boy being a bit immature with their dialect in Japanese, but Emu is, of course, sounding more posh, nobler, and Joy Boy being more what would you expect from Luffy at the very least. So it's kind of interesting that it seems like these two had a relationship where they seem to may or may not have had like the most friendliest interactions before, but then turned hostile, or the first time this is Joy Boy meeting Emu and they immediately sort of become adversaries even back then. I'll be very curious to see how they play out, but let's see. The main thing is that we finally saw Joy Boy's, let's see, a part of Joy Boy's face, and yeah, he kind of does look like Luffy, which I think to be expected, since Emmett talks about how you look a lot like him. They could have just been referring to like the Nika form that Luffy's currently have. So yeah. I suppose the only question you could argue is that Emu Oda's being a bit lazy with some of the black screening things, doing a Kubo, if you will. But granted, that doesn't last too long, I think. And so I think it's sort of fitting with like the text of the story they're doing right now. But who knows? People might end up disagreeing on that aspect, if you will. I do like how Emu is like, despite the fact he's tried so hard to forget about Joy Boy, even realizing that deep down Luffy isn't Joy Boy, but just looking at Luffy just brings back those memories of Joy Boy. And it probably doesn't help, of course, that Luffy probably does look a lot like Joy Boy, maybe even Joy Boy's his ancestral ancestor, if you will. Although that's a poor choice of words of saying, but yeah. But I do like how we see that the black flames that Emu seem to have a bit of a mind of their own to help Emu stretch out and punch Luffy, because it was like Luffy was trying to goof off with like doing the head ducking thing, but let's see, the flames did sort of like the Snake Man sort of like movement of punches, you will, were able to hit Luffy. So that was fun seeing that play out, if you will. And I do like how it seems like this is arguably perhaps in some ways Emu has fought the Nika fruit before, as he did fought Joy Boy, so arguably he knows how to fight the Gear 5th Devil Fruit, and unfortunately for Luffy, he does not yet know who Emu is and all that stuff, so it wouldn't do him many favors. But I do like how, as a result of this, let me just get the image up. Damn it. Technical issue. Oh yeah, here we go. That, let's see, you end up getting sort of like Luffy sort of running away with like Looney Tune styles from like some of Emo's flame attacks, as they are very dangerous. And Spy, even with like doing a jet Gatling to try and prevent them from reaching him, doing explosions where they are, he still seems to get some bit of the drawback, showing just how much deadly Emo's fruit is to like Nika one. But arguably, I think for me, the biggest highlight of the chapter, or at least in terms of Luffy, on Luffy's end, of his creativity to create a genie pun, if you will, because demons and genie have the same kanji, so he kind of mexes about. Well, granted, I've just seen like Aladdin recently and decided to incorporate it into their works, but we don't know. But yeah, well, it could be that Itsuki Kishimoto ended up has watched Aladdin recently, because he does have a family, from my understanding. But yeah, so but I do like the sort of funny banter you have that between Luffy and Loki, with Luffy trying to say, "I will avenge your death," with Loki going like, "I'm not dead, you moron," doing that sort of little joke, which arguably is a bit cliche, but I think it works. And heck, I even like the way One Piece did it, with Luffy being so goofy and all that stuff, and then just that just really annoys Luffy, and him going like, "I'm not your pal," but arguably I think Loki is too ashamed to admit at this point that he does consider Luffy a friend, if you will. But yeah, I do like seeing that. But of course, the highlight about this is that Emo attempts to, of course, attack. Let's see, Loki try and finish him off, but Jinbei finally getting a bit of more spotlight again. I mean, okay, granted, him and Frankie defeated one of like Killing's dream monsters, but we didn't really actually see him do a full-on fight afterwards, as the first round between Sanji and Killingham ended up ending off screen, which is a bit of a disappointment. But heck, better late than never, unless someone else volunteers, I guess. But yeah. But one thing I am a little curious about, though, from this chapter, if you will, is the fact that we've got Ragnar being impressed by Jinbei, which has led to some people believe that maybe he'll wield let's see, Ragnar rather than Usopp, which would be a bit of a blow for Usopp fans, but who knows? I think they are still waiting for that moment in Elbaf, which I do think will come. We're just waiting for the last moment, unfortunately. But yeah, and arguably it would have probably been better if Usopp was fleshed out in some other arcs like Wano and Egghead a bit more. So there would have been less like desperation to see Usopp do something in Elbaf, but it is what it is, if you will. So yeah. Hold on, just give me a sec. So but yeah, but I do like how you have this little like discussion with the Straw Hats, if you will, with particularly them wondering like who. But I would probably do say I do like how Luffy entrusts Jinbei to protect Loki, which arguably he's pretty good at, but protecting the lesser Straw Hats or those who are wounded. But yeah, so no, except for maybe like a few certain exceptions, but I'm not gonna go there. But yeah, but I do like how the Straw Hats are starting to question who this devil figure is of Emu and all that stuff, with Brook pointing out that, let's see, when they realize like, okay, no one should be higher than the five elders and the other standards of world nobles. But yeah, but hold on, let me just get it up. I do like how only the five. Brock points out how only the five elders should have a fire of 40, and you got the others guessing with fair point to Nami and Usopp that they would guess that, okay, this might be the supreme commander of the Knights of Guards, not realizing that he had already left with the Shamrock I'm referring to. So, yeah, at the moment, the Straw Hats are going to believe that Emu is, at the very least, a leader of the Guards Knight, which arguably he is, but he's actually much more of being like the secret leader behind all the bad guys, if you will. So, let's see, though, granted, we're not going to get that revelation anytime soon, at the very least, since, let's see, well, I don't think Young Justice is like, I'm thinking of Young Justice, sorry, but let's see, hold on, let me just, give me a sec. Where was I? Ah, yes. Let's see. The Straw Hats think that, okay, this guy would be like the supreme commander of the Guards Knights, but we all know it's the secret leader of the world government, but they haven't yet not to no proof, and I doubt they're going to get any proof until, let's see, they end up meeting Sabo and he explains what happened in the Holy Land. Or maybe if the Straw Hats successfully rescue Shuri from like this Gonko persona, and they end up learning that from her that the man that was there on Elbaf was actually the true ruler of the world government, which I'm very curious to see how the Straw Hats will react to, like, who Emu actually is. Robin, of course, is the one I'm looking forward to most because of her own past with the world government and history, if you will. So, yeah, though granted, it seems like Emu will have his attention on Brook because he called Princess Gonko Princess Shuri, and he realizes, like, oh, the Afro, so you're that person, which I do like how he's contemplating what to do, but ends up being distracted by Luffy's margin form trying to punch Emu, but I do like how he's able to just block it. And let's see, Emu mocking Luffy for like telling Loki to get rid of his like clothing so it's marking and all that stuff. It's like you're behaving a lot like saying you were watching the fight earlier, if you will. So of course Luffy does remove it, but he turns out from his genie form and all that stuff, and probably moves and stomps him away a bit with like Gear 5 antics, but yeah, other than that, I do like how we got to see hold on, let me just get it up. Emu's let's see, he's got an arsenal of blades, if you will. It seems like there's all kinds of theories about this being these are all the swords from the 20 kings that pledged their allegiance that Emu has been given to, if you will, making them their weapons, or he's killed some previous superheroes to like gain the swords, which to an extent you're probably right, at least one or two of them. And another debate is the fact that since Emu now has these like impressive swords that can, like, you know, take life to drain the life of everything around them, it's made people wonder if whether or not Hawkeye is the strongest now that Emu has shown to be quite effective with the blade. Well, I should point out he's not officially entering any tournaments, so I don't think he qualifies for that. But also the fact that, Emu, well, arguably has got a sword, and Mihawk, arguably is going to be able to defeat Emu one-on-one. It should probably know, as it was noted before, when you got like Cross-Guild's proper introduction, learning about the new bounties of the Cross-Guild members, Hawkeye was so high due to the fact that his skills were quite good, and also in Egghead you got like the Giants saying that Joe Boy's hockey was comparable to Shanks, if not slightly higher, showing just kind of how powerful and how much of a good influence that, I guess you could say, let's see, I was just thinking, lost my train of thought there, but yeah, you can see just how while arguably Mihawk probably wouldn't win in a fight against him because of all the power he has, not just with his swordsmanship, but with the devil fruits, because of the devil fruits, that Hawkeye cannot win. But arguably, if it was probably swordplay, I wouldn't be surprised if Emu will admit that Hawkeye is probably the better swordsman, and who knows, even Hawkeye wins in a sword match, if you will. But arguably, Emu is not really a swordsman, so it remains as it does. So, but yeah, I do like how we see in action and just seeing the scale of like the forest thing, and just seeing the devastation when Luffy's trying to run from it. But of course, the main highlight of this chapter is the fact that Luffy has been stabbed, and been defeated in Gear 5. In a similar matter that Gear 5, Luffy being defeated in this manner is similar to what Crocodile did in the first match against them in Alabasta, because, well, that was Luffy's first true major loss in the anime and manga, if you will. Granted, it's a bit different in live action, but no. This has been compared to Crocodile, if you will, and honestly, it's probably the thing that most people have kind of been hoping. Some people have been hoping for, at the very least, maybe not the entire fandom, but for Luffy's Gear 5 to be finally facing an opponent it's no match to. So I'm thinking that maybe Kaido, though not likely, since Gear 5 was Luffy's comeback against Kaido. Kizaru, maybe, probably because they affect some. You got that Yonko versus Admiral debate, even though I'm on the side of the Yonko. Arguably, there's probably a few chances Kizaru could have ended up taking taking out Luffy, if you will, and trying to avoid it much as possible. But Luffy, of course, got him in the way of a return, and also probably messed up about a bit with was messing around a bit with his Gear 5th, like he's doing now, which makes me wonder how this will affect him. Granted, arguably Luffy will probably more or less still remain the same, but probably be a bit more planning down the line, not to have tragedies befall them, but like this fight. But yeah, arguably this gives Emu a lot of credibility because he's defeated Luffy in a form that no one else has been able to defeat, not Rob Lucci, Kizaru, the Five Elders, or even Kaido. So yeah, it's okay, you gotta do it. And I do like how the fact that we get a side of him that seems to respect Joy Boy, realizing, yeah, I know you're not Joy Boy, because he would never be this weak, showing that Emu might even respect Joy Boy's immense strength, even though he fears it. But that's just me. I'm not sure, but yeah. Overall, this chapter, I'd say I give it a 10 out of 10, maybe a 9.5. I'm going to be nitpicky about some certain panelings, if you will, but frankly, no, I think it's fine with what they did. Giving Luffy versus Emu the fight that people were wanting to see, and the fact that also showing that Luffy can still be defeated even in Gear 5. Granted, arguably it's the most powerful being on the planet, but nevertheless, now that Luffy's had this defeat, he can arguably try and grow back to be stronger. So it'll be quite interesting to see how that plays out. But yeah. But overall, well, like I said, 10 out of 10 chapter, great fight scenes, great use of abilities. Luffy's genie form, if you will. Emu's flames, having a mind of their own, able to do a Gear 5, Gear 4 Snake Man to attack and arrest the Straw Hats. So yeah, so pretty good fight. You've got a few fun interactions with Luffy and Loki, with Loki still denying that they're pals and I'm not dead. Let's see, Brook Brook's concern for Gunko being Princess Shuri has made Emu remember him. So now you're probably going to get Geoforce is about to get in trouble, but we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there. But who knows? But who knows? That might be leading up to what was supposed to probably be the final season of Young Justice, but I digress. But yeah. Let's see, proving to be a threat. Let's see, Jinbei getting to do stuff, the Straw Hats trying to figure out what the world government is. Emu proving that, let's see, he isn't weak. That some people starting to say, oh, he's a fraud because he got punched by Luffy, forgetting that Oda has had a habit of pretty strong villains getting hit in the first blow. Before then, they fight back and easily defeat Luffy, as we see with let's see, sometimes with Kaido, but like when Luffy managed to punch him, but then he sort of let's see, but then Kaido sort of counterattacked eventually, hitting him in one blow. So yeah. Anyway, that's all I really have to say for this chapter. It's a pretty good action chapter, if you will. I'm finally caught up with One Piece now, so I can try and be ready for the next chapter review. I do have some other stuff going on, but nevertheless, let's see, I finally caught up, and arguably it's with this iconic moment of Emu stabbing Luffy. Now, granted, we know he's not going to die, but nevertheless, it's going to look more bad for the heroes that the main fighter against the main fighter for the enemy is still, basically alive and not yet dead, even though you got the stab wound there. But yeah, overall, good chapter. For those who end up listening, I hope you enjoyed what I had to say. Granted, I'm starting to get a bit tired, so I might not be thinking fully straight, but nevertheless, it's still been a pretty good chapter, I think, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again for the next chapter. But for now, I am Blue Star Saber signing off. Thank you, everyone, and goodbye for now.